How's everyone feeling today? We are within the waning moon phase. Are you feeling the moon's light dwindling? I'm just going to get cozy here. I seriously need to iron my hat. It's always doing something funky. So for Hi Eclectic Goddess. So for most of the world today, kind of crazy to think this, but most of the world, I believe, is celebrating Easter today. Oh, is Margie on here? I didn't see she was on here. I'm glad you were able to get on, beautiful sister. So us witches, and I'm sure there's other people out there other than witches, do not celebrate Easter because we are not Christian. Yes, there are witches out there that are in the broom closet, still enveloped by religious conditioning and programming and fear. But the witches who are living their life as a spell, we are not honoring Easter. We aren't honoring any of the Christian holidays, and it's not even appropriate. I'm not Stella, I'm Harmony. Stella is my dear sister, she's blonde. It's not even appropriate to say Blessed Ostara today because Ostara is not today. Ostara is the equinox, which happened a couple weeks ago, and the Christians placed Easter, which is very close to the goddess Ostara or Eostra, even named Easter after that deity that we have very little information about, interestingly. That's why there's so much debate around, like, is there an actual deity named Ostara or Eostra? And it's because all of our history was destroyed. But, you know, we have clues. You don't even have to have Google to figure out that the Christian church took everything from those that existed before the pagan church. And all of this that the witch wraps their life around is centered around what was happening in those European countries. And so that's how we also know that the archetype of the witch began in those European areas. But there's clues, right? That's what I was talking about. There's clues. You don't have to have Google to critically think about this stuff. And I know there's many out there like me who were raised in a religion, and I had all of these questions as I began to study the craft and history, because religion just didn't make sense to me. It never did. And when you realize there was an actual conversion, and the conversion consisted of murdering people who would not convert, that is your first clue into what you've been living as someone who is raised in any church that is wrapped around the concept of Christianity, that you are living something that was initially created to control people and is what we call a cult, A-C-U-L-T, not to be mistaken or confused with the occult, O-C-C-U-L-T. So when we look, the clue at Easter, the biggest clue that this conversion of a belief system actually took all of its belief systems from a time period, is that Easter, what they call Easter, is actually on the first full moon after the equinox. So this is not Ostara. We should, as witches, not be saying Blessed Ostara today. For me, today is just another day. There's no reason to bless this day any more than any other day. Now, I have my thoughts and feelings about Jesus, but the fact that this day is always celebrated on the first, after the Sunday closest to after the first full moon after the equinox, like that tells you that they took these practices after the conversion or during the conversion. What was happening is they were creating a structured belief system. The leaders in power were taking a structured belief system and making it a world order. Now, that didn't mean that each particular area, this is the way I look at it, is what I'm sharing, doesn't mean that everyone on this planet was ruled by the Roman Empire, no. But because they were murdering everyone and who did not convert, this became, and there was the pointing the finger of you're a witch, right? The fear, they use the fear to do that, of anything feminine. So they were wiping out all of the things that would threaten that new world order. And follow me, because people use new world order for a different reason than I am today. But when I look at it, this is what it appears to be to me, is that they were actually beginning at that time to structure the world order that we now live under. And that doesn't mean that there aren't different areas with different rulership. In the UK, they have a king and a queen. In the US, we have a president. There's still areas that are ruled by leadership that have their own rules. However, there were families, and if you think about these thousands of years ago, I believe this began to be structured before the actual conversion. It's like the conversion was a tipping point of like, all right, we are really going to make this the way. And through that, Christianity spread like a pandemic, and I call it a pandemic because it's a sickness. I feel like it is a sickness because it's a mental sickness because of the way people are manipulated and brainwashed to believe they are following something that is truth, 100% truth. And the thing about witches in our mythology is we all know it's mythology. We all know that it's mythology. We call it mythology. And we understand that our myths have been distorted and changed. So even the deities that we honor, there's several different stories. However, in Christianity, the reason I look at it as a cult is because when you look up the definition of a cult, and ACULT, sorry, I thought I had music on that was not going to play, is because when you look up the definition of a cult, it is removing people from society to follow one way and one leader. And so again, like, it's like the truth of something is hidden in plain sight. The majority of the population of the world, I think, is Christian. And they all are taught to point the finger at what is bad and condemn it and dehumanize it. And one of those things is a witch. And one of the other things is anything that is considered the occult, not a cult, but the occult, and the cults, C-U-L-T. Hopefully you're following me. And so, meaning to the Christians are actually the cult. When you look up the definition of what a cult is, not the occult. The occult is what is hidden, right? Christianity is not hidden, and yet they are demonizing the occult rather than what would be a cult. And the thing about witches is witchcraft, and even in the Wiccans, they're not teaching you to follow just one deity. However, Christianity is teaching you to follow one man. That man is who they call Jesus Christ. His name, I believe, was Yeshua. We think of Jesus Christ's last name, the name Christ, as a last name. The word Christ was placed at the end of his name to exalt him, make him a God figure, because the word, most people don't know. You could probably ask 100% of Christians, what does the word Christ mean? And they wouldn't know. The word Christ means the anointed one, okay? And to anoint means to acknowledge the divinity within someone. And we anoint them, we acknowledge the divinity within them using oil. In paganism, like, you see this being done throughout history. I believe, they used this in Egyptian temple arts. What we have to remember is that we're living under so much division now. And there never used to be, there was division, but the populations were so much smaller than what they are now. And so I believe that there would be people, even if you look at Jesus, for example, who they call Jesus, in their Bible, which we know the Bible was manipulated. I believe the years of Yeshua's life that were just not there in the Bible, from when he was 13 to 33, is because they ripped them out. They didn't want you to see what he was doing between the ages of 13 and 33. What could he have possibly been doing? He could have been at the temples of Egypt, at those mystery schools, learning to turn water into wine, learning to raise people from the dead. And who else do you think was there? Possibly who we see as Mary Magdalene, the whore. I believe she was there as well. Israel is very close to Egypt, which is all part of the African continent. We have voodoo in Africa. A lot of people think voodoo is witchcraft. Voodoo is an African religion. The only reason we are labeling things witchcraft is because that word was distorted. It was taken from those European areas where the conversion was happening, in Rome and France and Spain and Italy and Scotland, Wales, all of these areas, Ireland, Germany, Norway, all of these areas, that is where the witch actually originated. Now, because people would go to different areas and share their wisdom, that wisdom would be brought into a different particular area and labeled something different. So if you lived in Siberia, you would call it a shaman. If you lived in what we now see as the United States, you would be called a medicine woman. But in those European areas, a male would be considered or called a magician, and the female version would be called a witch. If you were in Egypt, it would be a priestess. So, you know, what we are seeing spread across social media is that anyone who was accused of being a witch is a witch, which basically meant every female who lived in those European areas was a witch. We love to empower ourselves by sharing a narrative that's not true. That they only burned the wise women, they only burned the midwives, they only burned, like, that makes us feel empowered. So I get why you're sharing it, but you're actually sharing misinformation. Were the witches inherently midwives and healers? Were they wise? Wise is different than knowledge to me. Wise is life lived experience when you really look into the meaning of wisdom. However, you have to think back to these times when not everybody read, not everybody knew how to write. And so these women that were witches, maybe they had those abilities. But I like to look deeper into the old ways. And what I am looking at is that these original witches, and I keep studying to find someone older than the witch of Endor, which I cannot find because she's biblical. But what we do have in her being biblical in there is that she's using her oracular abilities. Now, in modern days, we lump witchcraft with all of the early pagan folk magic, which is corn dollies, honoring what we now call the Sabbats. Those were just seasonal shifts to them, and they honored them because they meant life or death. They used them for planting crops and sustaining life on this planet. The thing is we've moved so far away from what actually sustains life on this planet because we now live in houses. We have computers, we have phones that allow us to communicate with people across the world. We have heaters, we have air conditioners, we have stoves, we have refrigerators. If you think about the pagan times, they came together to eat and to feast because why eating together was so important was because food was not always available. People died throughout the winter because they would freeze to death, because they would starve. We don't have that in our modern day. And so what we're lacking in our modern day is actually that foundational connection to the earth. And so for myself, I do say, and I differentiate paganism as a word that was used pre-conversion and around the conversion. Paganism was considered you were living, honoring the old ways. So pre-conversion was meaning you're still honoring the deities, the gods. I am not a part of the Illuminati. Someone just asked that. The deities, the gods, you were living by tinctures and herbs rather than the newer modern day medicines they were sharing. And this is how the archetype of the witch went from being an oracle, or what we would have seen a male magician as. The witch was actually a female version of that. So both the magician and the witch had that foundation of living from the earth, of people gathering in community to eat because not everyone had enough food to eat. So bringing all your food together to create soup for an entire community fed the entire community, rather than you keeping your potatoes and you keeping your bones and you keeping this and you keeping your onions. Everybody brought them together and they celebrated in the fire. They honored the fire. because the fire is what warmed their food. The cauldrons, the cast iron big pots were what they would feed people from. And so I really like to invite people that identify as witches to critically think about where the archetype of the witch came from, what it originally was, and who we see it as today, because we are losing that thread of the ancient witch, of who she really was. Because, and there's nothing wrong with it, but people think that witchcraft is pagan folk magic, and it is part of it, right? Because the witches of old, that's just the way they lived. But like I said, I'm like kind of my words sometimes. Anyway, the way that the way we see the witch today would mean that every woman was a witch in the past. And I know that word witch empowers women today, so cool, that's cool, use it if that makes you feel empowered. But I am here for a different reason. Yes, I love the empowerment of women, but there's this thread of something older that I am hanging on to and sharing through my practices. I believe that the Golden Dawn and the ceremonial arts that is part of real witchcraft is influenced originally from the temple arts in Egypt. And I am an initiated priestess of Isis, so that's probably why Egypt, why Egypt is important to me, but even looking historically, like there's so much of the mystical arts, mysticism that is rooted in Egypt and Mesopotamia, that we have to realize it's influenced every culture. It's just every culture has taken it and used it. The Golden Dawn stole and appropriated Egyptian practices. You could say that. And you can say the Christians appropriated pagan practices. The thing is there was no appropriation back in the day. And it's not that appropriation doesn't need to be a conversation, because there is a conversation that needs to be had around appropriation. And the reason that is because we are not honoring the practices. So the white people and witches that are out there screaming and canceling people for appropriating, a lot of them haven't even spoken to anyone that is in the culture that they are talking about that we're appropriating from. And this isn't to say that there isn't mixed feelings in different cultures around what white people are doing with their practices. There is mixed feelings on it, because what made a white person, most of us, is multiple different cultures. That's why we get our 23andMe done, to see who the heck we are. Very few of us even have a grandparent like I did who was 100% Italian. Other than that side of my family, everybody was something else. So my grandmother married a guy that was Irish, Scottish, German, English. So all of that got mixed with her Italian bloodline, right? Then my dad marries my mom, who has two parents that have multiple different bloodlines. The thing about us white people who are, and mostly it's the white people yelling appropriation, and it's almost like they need something on social media, and people probably get pissed off for me saying this, but you need someone to yell at and point the finger at. It's like clickbait. And it's like, you can't just look or hear one phrase someone says and point the finger of appropriation. If you look historically, I think the entire planet's mysticism was influenced by Egypt. And most people have not even done enough research to know that. And that these communities were so small back then, there was no pointing the finger of appropriation. They shared their wisdom like they shared their soup. They shared their potatoes because they knew the potato wouldn't feed their entire family. But if the potato was connected with these people's bones and these people's onions and these people's carrots, it could feed an entire community. And so people, the people who were seen to have wisdom of the cultures, would actually go to other areas and learn from those people and bring their wisdom back to their people. And that's how all mystics, who we would see as mystics, I think mystic is a pretty not connected to one particular culture, but that mysticism thread is throughout all cultures, is because they used to share, right? And then when they shared, because there were people living in different areas, they had their own ways, and so they would share their wisdom and it became their cultural practice. And so no matter what you are practicing in the mystical arts, I would venture to say that if we went back far enough, it was influenced by ancient Egypt, or what was called Mesopotamia. So the reason we need to have a talk about appropriation today, why the appropriation thing doesn't need to be thrown out, because why? Because again, just like we're losing the potency of who the witch really is, we're losing the potency because so many people are making their own practices out of somebody else's culture and not honoring where that wisdom originated from. So a lot of these people that are screaming appropriation are actually practicing Reiki. And if they critically thought Reiki comes from Asia, comes from Japanese lineages, but it was taught in Hawaii. If you are teaching yoga, which I'm a yoga teacher, that is an Indian practice from India. So if you really think about appropriation, if your skin is white, it doesn't matter if you have African American in you, West African in you, it doesn't matter if you have Japanese in you. Like, my kids look white and they have so much Japanese in them because their dad is almost 100% Japanese. His mom was 100% Japanese. He was born in Hawaii, but my kids, to look at them, you wouldn't know that. So where do we draw the line on who is allowed to practice what? And by looking at you, like by looking at my kids, you wouldn't know that a lot of their bloodline is Japanese. So, you know, my son has a big Japanese tattoo on him, and I'm like, like, I wonder how Japanese people feel about this white kid having this big Japanese thing on his chest. Is that appropriation? Because he came out with white skin. He's still got a father that's Japanese. So this is where we need to start critically thinking, having conversations about appropriation rather than just yelling at people, wanting to cancel people and dehumanize people. We need to have honor for where these practices came from. The reason white people are the original appropriators and need to be slapped on the fucking hand is because the entire reason the Christian church, the Roman Catholic Church, which eventually split off into all the versions of Christianity we now have, is they were the original appropriators. And all the white people who came over here were from some Christian religion. So they were the original ones to steal these things. But does that not mean that I, who has a grandmother who's 100% Italian, do not have some Italian wisdom in me because I was raised by a grandmother who is 100% Italian, right? Or my kids whose father is Japanese. So you can't just look at people and see what they're like doing and try to cancel them, because there are some white people who may carry the deepest of respect. But guess what? There's a lot of freaking confused people out there right now that are awakening. A lot of people that are meant to be teachers that just jumped on a path before and started teaching it before they were actually rooted in what they were teaching. And so we have all these voices, we have all these leaders who are showing up on social media, sharing their wisdom, and it's making it's again, like, it's not just, this is why I speak to what is really witchcraft, because none of you really know because of what's happened on social media. Now we see the witches as anybody that was accused of being a witch, when the witch has far more of a history than that. So what is also being appropriated and losing its potency is the medicine from these cultures. And that's why you don't just grab a bundle of sage, white sage, and start burning it. Do you even have a connection to the plant spirit? Like, you don't even have that. It's not that Native Americans own white sage. It's the only reason you are burning that white sage is because someone's seen it, and that a Native American was burning it and stole that practice. In that essence, we have no business burning that white sage. Were you invited into the someone who has Native American blood into their home, into their practice, into their initiations? Most likely not. Do you honor the spirit of that white sage? Most likely not. You're just burning it because you've seen somebody else doing it on TikTok, and so you're like, oh, this is what it means to be a witch. And white sage really had very little to do with what's inherent to a witch. If you look at where the witch originated, they were using items more like mugwort, juniper, rue, things like that. So it's not just these cultures that are being appropriated, it's even the witch. But going back to what I was originally talking about, so we need to have a conversation about that. We need to just stop pointing the finger and yelling at people and trying to cancel them. We need to have conversations about how we're honoring our spiritual practices, because most people don't have a spiritual practice. It's an afterthought. Whatever your spiritual, mystical belief is, it should be woven into every aspect of your life and who you are. If it is just something you come to on the Sabbaths and you don't think about it in between there, then it's not really witchcraft. You're just honoring some pagan stuff that you learned. So what I started with is these cultures and their different mystical beliefs, and how we ended up where we are right now, where most of the world is celebrating Easter today. I even have witches on the feed here a while back in the feed who were like, happy Ostara. It's not Ostara. Ostara is on equinox. This is not equinox. A happy waning moon. So this is where we need foundational wisdom and knowledge. There is no right or wrong way to practice witchcraft, but there is some foundational teachings that people need before they're really going to call themselves a witch, in my opinion. And we're seeing the word witch ripped from the real witches by the people, the Christians that are like deciding that you can be a Christian and a witch at the same time, which does not make sense. You cannot be sovereign and need a savior. It doesn't work. You can't be pagan and Christian. You can't believe in one God and then also believe in the goddess, the Mother Earth. Like, and you can't be Christian. The Christians all, the Bible is their book. It says, thou shalt not kill a witch, or thou shalt not kill a witch. It says thou shalt not kill, but it says thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. But when you think about it, speaking of thou shalt not kill, like, witches are, Christianity only honors what the heck it wants to honor, because they're the original appropriators. It's like, oh yes, we believe in the Bible, but the part that says thou shalt not kill, we don't believe in that. Because if we decide we need to go to war and kill a bunch of people, that's okay. If we need to mass farm animals and kill animals, then that's okay. God didn't mean you couldn't kill animals to eat them. And God didn't mean if you were at war, you couldn't kill them. But God did mean that witches should not live. That's who God was talking about. Like, do you realize how ridiculous this is? If you're listening to me, you probably already have thought of these things. It's just there's not as many of us as there is them. And how we ended up in this place today. I mean, you know, I look at what's going on in the world and I'm like, dang, you know, it sucks who's ruling the US, right? And people who even voted for this are like, just kidding, I wish I could take my vote back. And so I always look at things from the highest perspective, and I'm like, how can this fuck being leading our country that is affecting the entire planet now through his leadership, how can this be for the higher, greater good? The thing that I'm seeing here, the only good thing that is coming from this, is the fact that if he did not get in office, everything that is being exposed now would not have been exposed. So because it is exposed on a global level, globally, people are thinking critically about what their belief system is actually rooted in. They're looking at the leaders of their governments and realizing the entire government is corrupt. Here in the US, we are now realizing that whether you're right, you're left, or you're independent, it's all wings of the same fucking bird. So politics doesn't matter. And what this is bringing me to is this final thought, is that we, the average middle class, lower class, as long as you are not considered one of the elite families or a Hollywood individual that has been adopted into these elites, that all of us are a host for a parasite. The parasite is an entity, right? Parasites live. I started thinking about this yesterday because I was talking to Rebecca, one of the priestesses in my virtual coven, about, you know, protecting yourself and also cleansing your body. And cleansing your body, for other cultures and countries, they do multiple times a year, they do a parasite cleanse. And I've been reading about this a lot this year because my sister was telling me, like, she had one of her daughters they all parasite cleansed, but her one daughter was like dumping tons of parasites. And so I started really digging into this, and I just had, like, spirit was just like, this is something you need to pay attention to right here, because what humanity is realizing right now is we are the hosts for the elite. And I think that's why, especially here in the US, they don't want us to be parasite cleansing? Because if you parasite cleanse your physical body and you make your body and you're sovereign, you no longer are a host for parasitic, not just parasitic bugs inside your body, but parasitic entities. The parasitic entities are what is feeding the global elites. There's already been a world order. The world order is what we all live under right now. And so these keeping our body cleansed, there's so much in witchcraft that we need to be talking about today other than the spells. Keeping everyone focused on the spells is just like you're making a recipe in the kitchen. That's why they haven't blocked us, witches, completely from social media, is because we're disempowering people by sharing the spells, is what we're doing. Or if you're doing spells for people, I think you're disempowering people. If you are a sovereign being, if your energy is clear and you're doing a spell, you actually have power that you're working with. Why do the elites not care that they're practicing spells and putting them all over the internet? Because no one knows what they're doing. They're just putting together a recipe without a stove, without a burner. Like, how are you going to eat uncooked soup? How good would that taste? That's basically, if you don't have the foundational understanding of the craft, yeah, your human body has energy that's always influencing that spell that you're doing, but you're not really having the impact that you wish you could have. One of the reasons is because our bodies are so, I believe, and people have different thoughts about this, you guys. I'm just telling you what I think and what I feel. And I have not eaten meat in 13 years. I do eat dairy. I do try to eat dairy minimally. I'm always trying to get dairy like completely wiped out of my diet. But eating meat, you know, parasites can come in your body through raw vegetables, but I believe most of the parasites that are entering our body are coming from meat, and that's why they can survive being cooked and then eaten, and then they can also survive, they aren't killed by being cooked. So obviously our stomach acids are not going to kill them, so they go into our body and they feed off of all of our organs, right? This is making, and the more of them we have in our body, the more we become a feeding ground for parasites. I'm having a violation warning. So someone's reporting me for something. So just like I said, they're not going to block the witches that are sharing the spells, because there's nothing that they're going to do that could threaten their order. But what I'm sharing right now, they're threatening to block my live right now. If I get kicked off, you know why. We are making ourselves not only a feeding ground for parasites internally, but these entities that exist outside of us, that attack our energy field, that confuse us, they can feed off of us because we've made our body a feeding ground internally. We are sick and diseased because of the foods we are eating. When you are eating meat, you are ingesting the fear of that animal's death. And I don't care if that animal was fed in a grass field and had a beautiful life, it still was in fear when it was killed, when it was murdered. So I want you to think about the energy that you're eating, regardless if you justify it by it was grass-fed. If you were fed good your whole life and had a really great life, and they still lined you up for slaughter and hung you upside down and slit your throat and let you bleed to death, would you not be scared as you waited in line watching your brothers and sisters be murdered that way? Yes, you are in fear. Most people don't even realize that's what's in their freaking grocery stores. My main message isn't veganism or even vegetarianism, but it's woven into what I'm sharing. Witchcraft in modern days needs to be wrapped around the healing of the human vessel, because we are feeding grounds for these entities. They've made us this. Your health needs to be, I'm not saying you can do everything. It's freaking hard to live and get what you can that is good. Do what you can. Do what you can to, and for me, it's like the sovereignty of the animals. The animals do not deserve this. They don't. I believe humans are guests on this planet. I believe we were brought here. I believe we were brought here. I believe we were brought here from some other planets, and before there were humans like we have populating the earth, we feel like we just have some like expectation that we own this earth. Like the animals were here before us. You can live not eating meat, and I am here to tell you that because I do not eat meat, have not eaten meat for 13 years, and I have a genetic condition. It's not anything I can control. It's in my genes. It's a mutation of my genes that actually deteriorates my muscles. It's similar to MS. It's one of the muscle dystrophies, and my protein levels without eating meat are fine. My iron levels are fine. You can't live on French fries and lettuce if you're gonna not eat meat, but you can live without eating meat. And these people who go vegan or vegetarian and then say they got sick, it's because they freaking were living on Cheez-Its and French fries. You can't live on Cheez-Its and French fries. But you know what? Actually, you can probably live not healthily, but you can live on a lot less than actually what we're eating. The thing is our bodies are energy. And our energy is what we feed our body, and how much we feed our body, how much we're drinking, how much we are eating. Are we overeating? Are we under-eating? How we nourish this body radiates the energy of compatibility with the earth. You become a powerful witch by clearing your physical body. There are mediums out there who eat meat, and they can be mediums, right? There are people who can do certain things that we would call abilities in witchcraft. But I promise you, the power that they appear to have could be far greater if their vessel was clean. And I am not someone, I will call myself out on my own bullshit. Like, should I be eating cheese and ice cream? Absolutely not. Could I be more powerful if I completely 100% threw out the cheese and the ice cream? 100%. I am doing my best to do that. I would say I'm quite close to being vegan, but I can't claim I 100% am there. I will call myself out on my own bullshit. And that's the difference between the people I'm talking about and people like me. There are people out there who have spiritual knowledge and wisdom, and because they don't want to change their behavior, because it's not convenient, they spiritually bypass the fact that they are doing things like eating meat. We don't need to eat meat. And I am not a health influencer, but I'm telling you, energetically, what you eat influences your body. If you are trying to be psychic and you didn't come onto this planet gifted in that way, it's still available to you. However, you're going to have to work a little bit harder. Even if you came onto this planet gifted in mediumship or psychic abilities, you could be that much more powerful if you parasite cleansed, if you energy cleansed, if you made your body not a feeding ground for entities. Entities are energetic, parasites. So that's why I'm linking the two together. So I just want you guys to critically think about this. I'm not asking you to be perfect. Maybe start with 4 days a week. I'm not going to eat meat. What does that look like? Start learning to cook another way. Daya, D-A-I-Y-A, just came out with a cheese that is made with oat cream, and it actually melts and strings like cheese. It tastes more like American cheese. However, it gives you that texture that we crave, that we love in cheese. And so I've completely, anything I'm cooking at home, we made grilled cheese with avocado last night, and that is a vegan meal on sourdough. You get a butter that is not made with cream or milk. Miyoko's is a great brand. Country Crock now has a brand that's olive oil based, I believe. Like, there are butters that are vegan that you can use. It's a lifestyle choice. There are so many fake meats out there. If you need that texture, even Beyond Meat has added avocado oil, so it's not based in canola oil. You can drink oat milk. Humans aren't meant to drink cow's milk anyway, or goat's milk. Those are for cows. You know, you wonder why we have a problem with obesity in the US. We are pushing milk on our children from the time they are tiny. They made you believe with commercials and celebrities with milk mustaches that you needed milk to survive. Mothers will shame other mothers who don't give their children milk. It's like your child is not a cow. And that's why we need to not be eating cheese and ice cream as well, is because cheese and ice cream are made of milk. Milk is meant to take this tiny baby cow into this ginormous cow. What do you think is going to happen when we are, yes, milk is a poison, when we are feeding our children milk daily, cheese daily as our base nutrients? And people will say it's what do you call it? Processed. Do you not, if you eat the Daya fake cheeses, it's like, it's no more processed than your milk is or your cheese is, because your cheese would not come without slime and pus and blood, and neither would your milk. So, you know, I'm seeing, like, people want me to talk about witchcraft and share the spells, and I lose viewers as I talk about what really needs to happen right now, because people don't want to do this. And that's why the witches are few and far between, and the channels and the oracles and the real healers. Because most people are not willing to live their life as a spell. Most people don't have that drive in them to want to be more. They want to be more, but they want it to be easy. They want to drive through McDonald's and get it fast food, right? Fast energy, fast spell work. It doesn't work that way. And at the same time, all humans are psychic, all humans are healers, all humans are mediums. It's just some of us are born with those abilities natural because we've spent so many other lives doing them. Others of us have to develop those abilities, and to develop them, we have to get everything out of the way that is blocking us from those natural abilities. It's like humanity will never use the percent, like there's so much of our brain that is not being used. And I hate when I have to bring these puzzle pieces together. So we'll never know what we're really capable of because we will never be able to access and utilize those parts of our brains because we are not eating in a way that energetically aligns with spiritually, mystically, what we're trying to do. And I just thought of something. I don't know if you guys read the book by Virginia. I don't know how to say her last name. I apologize for just mutilating it. Virginia Guthrie, Nobody's Girl. If you read that book, I read it a few times and I've given it away because I think like we need to keep paying attention to the Epstein files. Everything that's happening on our planet is to get our eyes off of that because it's exposing the world order that we have been living under. This book that Virginia wrote and was published after her death, it clues us into many different things. And one of the things that just came into my mind is she said that Epstein was actually so focused on what he would eat and not eat that the girls who actually worked for him regularly, it's called Nobody's Girl. Virginia. He actually made the girls that were working for him regularly eat a certain way as well. She said she wasn't allowed to eat pizza. They ate a lot of hummus. That's the book I'm talking about. But and she tells her story of being with Epstein. And the thing is it just dawned on me, like the things that the elites know, and one of them is that the way you eat influences energetically what you're capable of. They keep themselves in power through ritual that involves sacrifice. But also like when they weren't eating intestines and disgusting stuff like this of babies filled with breast milk. I probably shouldn't be talking about this. They're probably going to kick my ass off of here. But when they weren't doing that as part of their ritual, they were eating very clean. She talks about it. And it's like that's why they keep us eating what we're eating. It's because they know if we are poisoned, we continue to be a host for the entities that keep them in power. I know it probably sounds very confusing to the mainstream person, but this is just what's been on my mind all week. And anyway, I'm not sure. I'm not seeing a lot of my regular community on here. I'm seeing some of you today. And it almost makes me sad that so many people are celebrating Easter today, that it's just like Christmas. I wish I didn't have to have the day off on Christmas. Like I would like to only celebrate Yule with my family and not have to celebrate the mainstream. Like everybody has the day off, so it's like basically we all have to celebrate Christmas even if we don't want to. Kind of feel the same way about Easter. Like everybody just feels like they're supposed to get together because everybody else is doing that. And it's like, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's still, they're celebrating Easter. And I feel like today, the message about Easter that I need to share is that today's not even Ostara. So don't tell your fellow witches blessed Ostara, because Ostara was on equinox. And it's like holiday peer pressure. Yep, truth. 100% truth. Today is not Ostara. Today's the waning moon. It's always the waning moon on Easter. And the Christian holiday Easter, not the witches' holiday, Ostara. And also, you guys, like, let's say that this story, that this man named Yeshua, that we also know to be Jesus Christ, like, why does he have a bunch of different names? Like, there's so many things people are bringing out that us who lived through the 80s and 90s that didn't have computers were always questioning in church. You know, people are now widely questioning, how did Jesus have disciples named Matthew, Luke, and John, which are like white people names? And then you have Yeshua? Interesting. You know, I love it that we're seeing people question this stuff. Something we need to think about on Easter is that most even witches that, you know, acknowledge Jesus's existence, even though we don't acknowledge him as our savior, most still believe he died on that cross. And I will probably die on the hill saying he didn't die on that cross. It makes more sense to me that he spent all of those years in temples, mystery schools in Egypt, and that's why they ripped them from the Bible, is so that no one knew he gained his abilities through the temples in Egypt, and that's where he met Mary Magdalene. And the reason he went there is because his mother, Mary, went there. And all of these Marys sat at the foot of his cross. He went out and fasted before this happened. He knew it was coming. He fasted. Think about that. He was preparing his body not to be raised from the dead and float off into the sky. Like, I wasn't even at my daughter's house yesterday, and my husband called me. He was over there fixing a drain, and he's like, so when they were questioning this stuff about Jesus, and they were like, so he died and he was resurrected, brought back to life, and then where did he go? Like, he floated off to heaven? Like, what happened to him? I'm like, well, they say he rose from the dead and ascended back to live with God. So in heaven, there's only one person who has, or two, maybe God has a body too, that have a physical body up in heaven. Like, and I'm like, good. I'm like, I love that my daughters are questioning this. Like, they weren't raised. My oldest daughter went to church till she was 8. When she was 8 is when I completely pulled the plug on everything that had to do with any church and came out of the broom closet. So, you know, my younger children were never raised with any church. In fact, I was looking at things of theirs just a couple weeks ago, like their childhood stuff. And I seen my daughter wrote "Blessed be" to the Tooth Fairy. It's so cute. She's like 25 now. She wrote "Blessed be" with a pentacle on the letter she wrote to the Tooth Fairy. And she wrote letters to the goddess. Like, my kids did not, I guess I didn't realize my younger kids were so influenced by having a mom. Like, I guess I never like looked at it like it was so cute back then, but now that I'm like so looking at the rest of the world, I pull out these old papers and I'm like, this is adorable. That back in 2008, 2010, like, she's writing the Tooth Fairy a letter, and and signs it blessed be with a pentacle. I just like, that's adorable. And I completely lost my train of thought now because I was talking about that. Where was I going? Oh, so they were, questioning. My two daughters, they live together. They rent a house together. And so my husband went to fix their drain. And I guess they were having a conversation of, if he was raised from the dead, that where did he go? Okay. So when you critically think about what the Christians are believing, it is like, okay, so they're not doubting that he got raised from the dead, right? I believe that he didn't die. They brought him to the brink of death, is what I believe. I believe that the fasting for 40 days, 40 nights, he fasted beforehand, was preparing his body to be resilient enough to lower his heart rate, to hang on that cross and not actually die. And then they bring him and they think he's dead because he appears dead. But I believe that the Marys gave him something to make him not die. And the reason, I believe there were many people in on this, they removed the rock that was in front of the tomb and brought him back. And the reason there was nothing left there other than the robes he was wearing. So the Christians are saying he rose from the dead naked and was like ascended to the heavens naked. The Mormons, and I was raised Mormon, you guys, the Mormons believe he was resurrected. So the Christians aren't doubting that you can raise people from the dead. Do you realize they're acknowledging this? But they're bringing him back from the dead and leaving his clothing there. So, that kind of is something I paid attention to as a kid. Like, so naked, he went into the heaven. And that may have just been something in the Mormon doctrine. I don't know. But I'm like, nobody seems to talk about that, but it's like, okay, so it's like robes were left there in the tomb. That means he was naked. And the Mormons believe he went to what we now see as America. And that's what the Book of Mormon is, a history of what was happening in the Americas after he was risen from the dead. So he rose from the dead and ascended into the sky and floated naked over to America. When you really break down the stories they're telling like this, it is actually comical that they are going around and preaching this as truth. And this is, I'm sharing from my perspective as an adult, but also my child perspective that was always questioning this stuff. And of course, a child is going to question something like, wow, he was raised from the dead and nothing was left there in the tomb other than the robes that he was buried in. And I was, as a kid, I'm like, so he was naked? These are things that I questioned that are still like stuck in my head. Maybe there's more around that, but my child self always has to come out and say, so he ascended to heaven nude and then went over to America. Okay. Here's a story I've come to as an adult. I know some witches, some people actually don't even believe Jesus existed. But the thing is that we only have the history we have. We know that we have this history book called the Bible that has been rewritten 400 times, more than 400 times. It has been translated from other languages. We know that the information that is in the Bible originated with the libraries, the scrolls that were in the libraries of Alexandria. The libraries of Alexandria were burned when there was a big fire. And the scrolls that supposedly made it out of there were brought over to where the Roman Empire was in Greece, I believe that was. I'm not sure on the exact locations that was, but the Romans like overthrew Egypt several times from my understanding, and the Greeks would actually bring back things from Egypt and implant it there. That's why it's said that Isis is actually she of 1,000 names, because there are several deities that we actually honor that they say originated as Isis, and then they changed it. Yes, the Bible is over 2,000 years old. It was translated rewritten over 400 times, I believe. And so we know it's not truth, right? We know it is not 100% truth, but it is rooted in what was in those scrolls. So there's got to be some remnants of something in there that was true about those times, right? That's why I look at it and I'm like, okay, what is true in here? You know, did the Witch of Endor actually work for a king? It's likely. But the things that are Christian influenced in that Bible don't even make sense. I believe they removed the mother god because everyone believed there was a mother god before the conversion. I believe that not everyone believed there was a mother god before the conversion. I shouldn't say that. I just believe that the matriarchal history that came before Christianity, like, there was a time period that we don't acknowledge that was matriarchal. We just think we like popped onto this planet with a patriarchal structure. And there's actually a lot of history. And, you know, in the book, When God Was a Woman, a lot of that history is compiled in that book. There was a researcher, Merlin Stone, I believe, is who wrote When God Was a Woman, and put all of this history of proof that there was a matriarchal time before the patriarchal times. And the patriarchal times was when we had that shift to believing in one male god, right? So there was a slow shift over a period of thousands of years when it went from matriarchal to patriarchal. And through that, I do believe there was stuff about God in the Bible, but you won't make me ever believe there's nothing about a mother God in there, because that's the history they wiped out. That is what was hidden. You know, it's even like the scrolls of Magdalene, they found them freaking buried in the desert, you guys. The only reason you're allowed to say Mary Magdalene is a disciple or an apostle of Christ is because there was too much information being uprooted about Mary Magdalene. So even though the church tried to hide her and destroy her, people took her message and it didn't get burned. They buried it in the desert and people were finding it. And so they had to acknowledge that, yes, she was more to Jesus than a whore that he saved, or prostitute that he saved with his message. The thing is they have yet to acknowledge that she was his wife, even though in those teachings in the Gospel of Magdalene that they found, it says she kissed him upon the lips. She would be freaking murdered for being a woman and acting that way with a man if she was not married to him during those times. So there's so many things that we need to critically think about. So there is another person named Mithras, and the Roman Empire, the Roman leaders got together and were like, who is going to be our savior? Is it going to be Mithras or will it be Yeshua? And so most people don't even know the story of Mithras, but he was actually crucified. And I believe this makes people think that Jesus never existed, and that they actually, just hopefully you're following me on this, that they actually transformed Mithras's life into who we now see as Jesus Christ. Same thought process of, think of all the stories we have of the deities, the different versions, because throughout times the deities' stories would change. That's why we see Isis, a she of 1,000 names, is because Isis is likely Hecate. Isis's likeness is actually probably woven through several deities, right? So people think that maybe Jesus never existed. And it was just, that's why he has two different names. That's why his, story can be so easily manipulated, is it was based off of Mithras, right? So, I think that's likely. The whole reason I call my particular community Mystic Witch is because I think a witch is just a witch is a witch. Like, we shouldn't have to identify, am I a solitary witch, am I an eclectic witch, or a green witch, or an astro witch. It's basically just talking about your freaking aesthetic and where you like to focus your craft. It doesn't even speak to true lineages of the witchcraft, and so I am open, basically, because the mystic knows the only thing they know is nothing at all. You can have your beliefs, but they need to be open to change, because we don't know anything, because they destroyed it. So I'm not here to say that it's completely not true that Jesus never existed. Maybe he didn't exist and they just made him up. Like, that is a possibility. Look at all the different gods in mythology. They completely fabricated out of thin air. I don't believe all the deities are not real. I do believe some of them they did pull out of thin air, but they were all based off an actual person. And so they may have very well likely did that with Jesus. Whoever, I do believe there was something, whether it was Jesus or it was Mithras. I believe Magdalene existed, and I believe that when they rose him from the dead using their abilities that they learned in mystery schools in Egypt, and then Magdalene and Mary, his mother, and Yeshua fled together to France and lived their lives out in the caves there. So that's just my belief system. It doesn't make sense to me that these women traveled all that way by themselves and could do that safely during those times. I believe they probably had to keep Jesus' identity concealed in some way. Thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you for hearting the live. I do believe resurrection is possible when you're saying, like, once I brought a bird back from the dead, right? We have that ability as humans. If the person or the animal has not been passed too long and it's not their time to go, I do believe we can bring them back from the dead. And so that's not what's got me. It's just like what my daughters were calling about yesterday is what did he do? Like, what do the Christians believe he did? And they believe he rose from the dead in his body, nude, and went to heaven. The Mormons believe he went to America. I'm not doubting that he rose from the dead, but I don't think God pulled him up to the heavens. And I think it's, if you want to believe that story, just like I believe in some of the myths, I know they're probably not true, but I like the story behind some of them. So it's like I keep it, even though I know they're not real, right? That's like Christianity. I'm like, you guys just realize that what you're talking about is not real, and quit like making it like everybody has to believe the same as you or we're evil. Like, that's so like dehumanizing. Like, we need to move beyond that. And it's more likely that he came back from the dead and went to France with Magdalene. Why else would Magdalene decide to live in a cave for the rest of her life? Because she had to hide that she had a husband who everybody wanted to murder at that time or thought died. They needed to pretend that he stayed gone. So if Jesus was a real person, and that's the way the story, and he actually lived, that's the way this witch perceives it. I really have a deep relationship with who I believe to be an ascended master. I would call her more than a deity, Mary Magdalene. I just have a deep connection with her, as I do Isis and many other deities. And that's where I conjure up what I believe happened to her. Is what I believe 100% the truth, the only truth? No. I think living in modern days, if you have any spiritual teacher or guide that is telling you what I'm telling you is 100% the truth, and you have to believe on only what I believe, then that is not a teacher of this new age. We are moving into the age of Aquarius, the age of community and rebellion, people rising up against the old world order. And rising up against this new world order that they're trying to build, right? We're rising up against both. We are done with the age of Pisces, which is the age of the guru. And that's why I'm very careful, like even though I'm leading a coven, guiding a coven, I often don't refer to myself as a high priestess, even though my witches in my community call me high priestess and I'm playing a role of a high priestess. I don't want to be what the voice of what your truth is. I share my truth. If you believe it, then take it. If you believe something else, or you believe part of it and some part of something else, then so be it. My thoughts on agnosticism, I was very drawn to agnosticism at the beginning of after I came out as a witch. I was very into Sylvia Browne when I was still in the church. And I read every single one of her books. Actually, in one of her books of predictions, she predicted what happened in 2020. And I was just talking about this to Stella the other day. Like, I know it feels a bit like 2020 right now, but it's not 2020, right? We don't have a new pandemic. The thing about what Sylvia Browne predicted, even the people that were like, she predicted this, nobody was paying attention to, I believe she said, and I would have to dig the book out to find it, it was 9 or 10 years later that something very similar would come back. So if I were going to be worried about any time period of something happening like 2020, it would be in 2030 or 2029. Just because I really followed Sylvia Browne, and she was agnostic, and I would think if there was any structured religion that if I were like be put to death or follow a religion, I would probably follow Wicca. Next in line to Wicca would be agnosticism. Actually, I don't think it would be Wicca. I'm sorry, I have to say that. It would probably be the agnostic, because, and I've really been recently studying the Cathars, because the Cathars held what we now see as the agnostics' wisdom, which they held the wisdom of Sophia, the divine mother, in other words. And I really like their truth. The agnostics' truth makes way more sense to me than any other truth. So I actually encourage witches to study agnosticism, just to understand that there was a time period where, and a thread of that time period that came through as the agnostics, that honored the mother, that honored the feminine. So yeah, and I believe, the Cathars were this group of people. I have an astrology teacher that teaches a lot about them, and I read a lot about them. She says they were like whack-a-mole, and the Cathars would show up and the Romans would murder them, and then they would pop up somewhere else, and sometimes they would have a little bit different of a name. And it was like they were a direct threat to the church because they carried the wisdom of the Divine Mother. What's interesting about the Cathars and the connection to witchcraft that I only recently learned is that the original tarot decks were said to be the Cathars' wisdom hidden in plain sight. So they put their story, because they kept being murdered, they put their story in this deck of cards to be translated, to remind you that the power exists within you. And so it's very interesting that witches are so drawn to reading the tarot. I believe that is because the witch's wisdom originated with what could have been within the Cathars' teachings. Interesting about the Cathars is that they did not eat meat. And since I was a child, did not want to eat meat and never believed in the church I was being raised in, and it always was like adversely like coming up fighting against it. So when I learned about the Cathars, I was like, I feel like I lived a past life as a Cathar, because I was so drawn to the agnostic teachings, and I would not eat meat, did not want to eat meat, and was against any Christian religion. Like, just something in me I came into this life with. The other knowing I came into this life with was that I was a witch. So between those things is where I came up with my truth. Now someone's asking me about my rings, so I will stop my ranting and tell you about my rings. Here, I'll switch the direction of this ring. So Enchanting Earth Co., I think it's called Enchanting Earth. She's on IG and also TikTok. She does lives and sells her jewelry on IG. So I have, this is garnet, and it's a cat head, you guys. Look at it. Isn't it adorable? It's 2 cat heads and it's a garnet. And then I have this one. I always forget the name of this. This is a moonstone. I got this at actually Mossy Apothecary. This ring I got from Stella, Witch of the Moon. That's one of her creations. And this is from Enchanted Earth Co. It's like something called like spalina, I think. This is a stone of royalty. You can see a little bit of red here in the corner. So often this was used in crowns and royalty because they thought it was ruby because it was red, but it actually wasn't ruby. And then this is, why do I always forget the name of this? But this ring came from her as well. It's got moons on the side, if you can see. Moons, a raven, and a pentacle. And that came from Enchanting Earth Co. too. So actually, anyone coming to Practical Magic Retreat in the fall, I'm going to take you to Jamie's store. She has a store in Sedona. And what I want to tell you about Sedona is most of the crystal stores there, a lot of the crystals are not real crystals. They're something that's lab made. The thing I love about Jamie, I met Jamie online, is that she does have a storefront. It's not in Uptown where all the main tourists go, and she's close to the public majority of the time because she sells online, and she's just like not a lot of walk-in traffic where she's at. But the thing about her is she's very much a like this witchy starseed energy, and she is very much into educating people on crystals and what real crystals are and how you can work with them. Of course, anything that's in Uptown, I mean, it's a cute shop, but no, I've never gone. I mean, I do believe they have a few things in there that are real, but most of them are lab made. And I've never been to a reader there that I love. So anyway, Jamie's store is all real crystals. They're all real stones. Of course, anything you give power to has power. So don't throw away your lab made stones. Whatever intention you put into them is going to it's going to work for you in that way. The thing is the human body, if you listen to Jamie's teachings, is that part of our body is actually made from crystals that come from the stars. I was just listening to one of her posts and I was like, wow, this is why I'm so drawn to you, because she is actually educating people on what our draw to these crystals is. So anyone that is coming to Practical Magic, I usually don't take anyone shopping because I don't like a lot of the stores in Sedona. I hate to say that. I love Sedona and there are amazing stores there, but I don't take people shopping. Now, because I found out Enchanting Earth is actually in Sedona, I'm on the last day of Practical Magic taking our witches to the store for a private gathering. She's going to do a little teaching on the crystals, do a guided meditation, and the women will be allowed to shop her store privately. So that's something that I'm doing because I really think she has valuable information to share that is something that's not my expertise, but that I love and am drawn to. So I love learning from her, and I love sharing with people, the people that I think are actually legit online. So if you haven't followed Enchanting Earth, and her name is Jamie, on Instagram, she's got quite a large following. Oops, I know you're not supposed to say that word on TikTok. On TikTok, not as high, but you'll know it's her because of the following is the reason I'm talking about the following. So yeah, go check her out. She does lives and sells her jewelry. The cool thing about her jewelry, you guys, is when I buy jewelry online, it sucks because I have really small fingers. And often I'll get like a 5 and it'll be too small. If I get a 5, it'll be too big, but the 4 is too small. All of her rings, they are for a varied amount of size, and you pull this, so it makes it larger and then smaller. So it's not like they have to have your size. So if you do, go follow her and, get on one of her lives, her jewelry, you can feel it. When you go in her store, I was just like, I feel this store. Oh my gosh. So anyway, enough about that. Usually I cast a circle before I get off my live. Is there anyone on here today who wants me to cast a circle? I do need some water, Haley. Okay, so we're gonna cast a circle. Casting this circle will help you if you've been feeling down. I also, before I cast the circle, I want to talk to you guys about something. Stella from Spirit Space Collective, you know Stella, Witch of the Moon. Her and I are holding a circle next Sunday if you're in Australia. It's going to be a virtual circle. It's called Calm in the Chaos. And why we are holding the circle is because the energy of April, there's so much fire energy in April. We feel like the collective is going to need some nervous system support, some tools to help you to remain empowered during this year and these times. This circle is only $66. It is, it's gonna be a 2-hour event, and we are gonna be teaching witchcraft rooted ways to be able to empower yourself to get through the rest of this year. So a lot of people are feeling that, like, the fire, but the thing is a lot of us are disconnected from the fire. So fire in shadow will come across as like stagnancy, depression. Fire in shadow can also be a fire burning out of control and somebody just living their life completely like a bat out of hell and angry all the time. So I feel like what's going to happen starting this month with this fire energy, with this astrology, there's going to be like 7 planets in Aries, you guys. The thing about Aries that doesn't get shared a lot is that the original story of the god Mars and Aries are the same deity, right? And the story about him is that he's the god of war, okay? And this goes to show you how the myths that we share actually shape human consciousness. So and our consciousness dictates how we experience energetic possibility. So the energetic possibility is fire, right? It's fire in these next month. It is energetic fire. How we perceive in our consciousness fire is how we will experience this energetic possibility. With most people connecting Aries and Mars to being this god of war, will think that more war is to come, right? However, Aries and Mars, the older version of that deity story, is not of war. I only learned recently that, because I'm always talking about I don't honor male deities because they've all raped women, and I will not honor any male deity that has a story that is of rape. I won't, period. End of story. And someone brought up to me that Mars and Aries are the same god, and he is one of the only deities of very few that did not originally have rape in his story. And the only rape that was actually an after patriarchal rewrite. So the patriarchal rewrite wrote him as he conceived a daughter by raping one of the Vestal virgins, but there was no story of that before. The pre-patriarchal story of Mars and Aries was that his daughter was raped, his daughter was accosted, and he, as her father, went and murdered the man that raped his daughter. Now that is the true energy of Aries, is someone that will protect women and children. So it behooved the patriarchal narrative for them to make his story one of rape like the other deities, because it didn't follow the narrative that they needed the consciousness of humanity to be in. So Mars and Aries became this god of war. It wasn't that he wasn't a warrior, but he was a warrior that stood for women and children. So as we come into this Aries energy and we have all of these planets in Aries, like, let's embody that. Let's have that be the narrative that we move forward with this energy. Someone that rises up as the warrior and protects women and children, not just the god of war. We choose the stories that go forward that are shaping our consciousness. Let's go into this energetic possibility of fire instead of with thinking about war going into this possibility. We are going into it thinking of protecting women and children. When humanity's consciousness wraps around that with Aries, anytime we come into that Mars and Aries and fire energy, it's going to be a rising up to protect women and children. So this is something like I was going to bring into that class next Saturday, but you guys, that is why we are hosting this online circle, Calm in the Chaos. There is a link in my bio for that class. It's $66. There will be a replay if you can't join us live. Go sign up for it. Also, wanted to tell you that Stella and I will be live on TikTok tomorrow, I believe around 5 o'clock Arizona time. So translate your time, but Stella and I will be going live talking about that class, talking about the energy that's upcoming for this month and the rest of the year, and how to work with that energy. And that's why we are holding that online circle, is to create an anchor for anyone that wants to join us, because we can see that the energy is about to like really get big. And the role of us witches in modern days in being of service, no matter what level you're at, your example, the life you're living, is the energy that's influencing the collective. Even if you never speak a word about your craft to anyone, whatever your energy is during this time is influencing the collective energetic field. It's feeding that thread. And so we decided before we come into this time, like, we can already feel it. And what I have been hearing from people is that they're feeling this incoming, and what it's feeling like to them is the shadow of fire. It's not the empowered energy of fire. And so what they're feeling is either this complete, like, I'm dead, like, blah, I'm laying on the ground, I can't get up, I'm so depressed, it's blah. I hate this. Like, what is happening to me? I'm crying all the time. And then the other part of the people are, I'm just pissed. Like, I'm mad and I'm mad at everyone and I get triggered by everything. Both of these are shadow expressions of fire. And we haven't even come into the complete alignment of fire that's really going to affect everyone. So right now, we want to give you an anchor point. Like, what is your fire going to nourish? What is your fire going to create? What is the pressure that is being inflicted on humanity right now creating for you? And if we come from a anchored place within our physical body, a centered place, it's not that you have to be teaching anyone, but the energy you're emitting is influencing the collective in such a profound way. So that's why we created the circle. It's next Saturday. It's not even a week from now. It's 6 days from now. And it will be 4 o'clock Arizona time. There will be a replay sent out. It's Calm in the Chaos Circle. There is a link in my bio if you want to join us. All right, so we are going to cast a circle. I'm probably going to make it a little shorter than normal, but I am seeing there are people on here who want me to cast a circle, right? So we're gonna do it. If you want to join me for this circle casting, this is an energetic circle casting. So if you want to be a part of it, I want you to don't turn off the comments, just let them go. If you're going to join in on the circle, for you to join in, you need to state out loud or type in the chat, yes, thank you, I accept, I receive, I claim this, whatever it is that you want to write, so that it is in your sovereign voice saying yes. Otherwise, you're just watching and witnessing me cast a circle. You have to have your own energetic yes to be a part of this circle casting. So I lead it like a guided meditation, and what it does is it creates a circle of deities' energies. The deities are not going to be invoked into your body, they're going to be evoked, meaning they will be around your energetic field as archetypes of parts of you that you have yet to embody. And as I call in those deities, I'll say, bless us as we call your name. And I'll say the deity's name, Hecate, for example. And then I invite you to say out loud with me that deity's name 3 times. Hecate, Hecate, Hecate. So all you have to do is find a place where you will be undisturbed, alone, somewhere where you can lie down or sit up. If you are lying down, please don't curl up in a ball like this. Don't have your legs crossed, your arms crossed, because that energetically blocks you from receiving. You want your arms open. If you're sitting, your legs are uncrossed. Your spine is long, even if you're lying down. Spine is long, no ankles crossed, no legs crossed, no arms crossed. Put in headphones if you can. Also type yes, thank you, I accept, I receive, I claim this in the chat, so that you are energetically saying, yes, I am going to receive the circle casting. Now, why would you want to receive the circle casting? Because I command the circle to go to the 7th and 8th plane of existence, which means you will be in a level of consciousness until you go to sleep tonight that is a transcendent state of consciousness where you can connect with spirit, you can connect with your oversoul, you can connect with your source, and receive downloads of divine wisdom. Now, what the circle closes when you lie your head to go down to sleep tonight, and I'll say it closes, but it will never be broken. It's open but never broken. And what that means is that you will, because the circle's never broken, the circle dissipates gently as you are integrating what came in for you in your sovereign circle. So I'm the one who's casting the circle, but it is with the intent that each of us are, it's like a circle being cast around each of us sovereignly that also is collectively for the highest good of all. So we're calling in the elements, the deities to create this circle, this energetic circle around you. So even if you go to the grocery store, you will be in this bubble of protection, because inside of it you are in a higher state of consciousness. Now, we don't want to go around in our life in a transcendent state of consciousness because we're meant to be human. We came into this human life onto earth to be human. We are here to learn what it is like to be human. Our soul is learning what it's like to be human. Our human is like, what is it like to be a soul? Because we forgot our soul life. The thing is we have to have the soul fully in body for the body to know what it's like to be a soul, and for the soul to know what it's like to be a body. So we don't want to stay in transcendent space, because that's where we get like illusion, delusional spiritual people, is because they stay disconnected too long and they're not in their body. And so the wisdom is very unanchored, ungrounded. Another reason why you should join us for our Calm in the Chaos Circle is because we're going to teach about these concepts. So if you are ready, we are going to go ahead and cast the circle. We're going to let the comments flow and not worry about the people that are in the comments. Are going to keep their comments respectful and energetically. I am anchoring the energy, so go ahead and close your eyes right now. And I want you to take a quick inhale just to fully exhale. Another quick inhale. Exhale. Another quick inhale, just exhale. Push all the air out using the strength of your abdominal muscles. No air in the body. Seal your lips. Slowly inhale through your nose. Noticing your body inflate with the breath that you're breathing in. Soften your shoulders. Hold the breath at the top. Hold. Relax every part of your body, then part your lips and audibly exhale. Squeezing all the air out of your body. Pausing at the bottom, noticing what it feels like to have no life force energy in your body. Sealing your lips. Slowly inhaling through the nose, feeling the air move through your nostrils into your throat, expanding your heart, your lungs, your rib cage. With your intention and directed focus, bring the air to your womb or your hora, to your hips, to the tips of your fingers, all the way to your toes. Hold at the top. Take in one more sip. One more sip. Hold, soften your shoulders, soften your lower back, open your mouth and audibly let go. Pushing all the stagnant air out of your body, and then sealing the lips, inhaling. Open your mouth, exhale. Sealing your lips and beginning to let your breath move back into a nice, natural, rhythmic flow that feels right for you. Noticing the way your chest rises and falls with every inhale and exhale. And seeing if you can just bring a little attention to the breath and allow the inhale to expand your belly very wide. And your exhale allows the belly to deflate. So it's almost like you're noticing this very fluid, like water, but you're blowing up a balloon with your belly, with your inhale. And then you're letting the air out of the balloon slowly as you exhale, and the belly contracts in with the exhale. So continue to breathe like this, in and out. Life force energy flowing like water. Imagine yourself floating on crystal clear teal blue waters. The bottom of the water is not dirt, is not rocks, it is crystals. You float above a bed of crystals, and above you, the sun is shining down upon you. It's the only God you know, nourishing your body with life force energy, with the fire that we cannot live without. As I call forth concentric circles of light to surround us now, moving from north, east, south, and west, these unending circles of light pulsate in a unique color for each of us in our sovereign circle this day. Noticing this color without getting lost in trying to define what it means, just becoming aware, witnessing the pulsating light around you as you find yourself in the center of this sacred circle, floating on a body of water above crystals. Feel the tingling of your skin as it touches the air around you, allowing your breath to move in and out as the belly expands with the inhale and deflates with the exhale, becoming lost within this moment, lost in the beauty of witnessing yourself within these circles of light. As I call forth the guardians of the watchtowers of the north, south, east, and west. Continuing to breathe, calling the guardians of the watchtowers to watch over these sacred circles that we cast today, that they may be of integrity and authenticity. Guardian of the north, keeper of earth, I invoke the elements and the spirits of earth to join us now. Keeper of the keys, keeper of the crossroads, she who rises on the darkest, moonless, starless night with torch in hand, she who arrives as a mother, mother of witches, her energy holding us, a guiding light for us, she who does not do for us, but guides the way, illuminates the path, that even in the dark, darkest night of the soul, she is there representing the one divine mother, and why we call her Mother of Witches is to be born upon this earth. You were born to transform humanity's consciousness, which is quite dark, and yet she joins us to illuminate the crossroads, the choice points that we find ourselves in and day out individually. And at this time, collectively, she is illuminating the path, the paths, the choices. She's handing us the keys. We get to make the choice of which road we take, illuminated by her light and her love. It is fierce. She calls in the shadow and the familiars that hold space for us to go toe-to-toe with our own inner demons, our own inner wounds. She calls forth black dogs, ravens, serpents, crows. She calls forth the moon to shine down upon the earth as a gift of the feminine to a world that has lost its way. Bless us as we call your name. Hecate, 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 Hecate. Guardian of the northeast, keeper of the sacred wells, and keeper of the morning sun, bless us as we call your healing waters in to wash over us, lap over us like cleansing waves of salt water, energetically removing all that which we hold that is blocking the path ahead. Bless us as we call your name. Bridget, 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 Bridget. Guardian of the East, keeper of air, I invoke the elements and the spirits of air to join us now. She of 10,000 spells, she of 10,000 names, a mother of priestesses, mother of deities, queen, mother of Egypt, goddess of transformation, goddess of shape-shifting, reminding us that each of us, witches, are an angel here on earth, meant to bless, to heal, and to serve the Divine Mother, the goddess that exists within us as part of our soul. Bless us as we call your name, Isis, 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 Isis. Guardian of the southeast, keeper of sovereignty, she who rides her steed as the wind of change, she, one of our deities, who was blamed, lied about, her story distorted. She was willing to carry forward in sovereign light, even when inflicted within the darkness of humanity. Her story made her believe she was something she was not. She is reminding us today that within us, if we are called to her as a deity, it's because we too were made to believe we did something we did not. We were made to believe we were born of sin, and we were not. Just as she did not harm her baby, the world projected upon her that she did, and she walked part of her path, serving a sentence for murdering her baby that she never murdered. And we as women walk a path where we were said to have been born in sin, and we took that burden and walked part of our path as that. But in this modern day, she arises, this deity arises as a guiding light for swift change, for the awakening of sovereignty within human consciousness, to remind you that you have no burden to bear that is placed upon you by merely being born onto this planet. You are sovereign. She reminds you of this as you call her name. Bless us as we call your name. Rhiannon, 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 Rhiannon. Guardian of the South, keeper of fire, we invoke the elements and the spirits of fire. We invoke your light. We invoke your nourishment. We invoke your ability to clear the old away so that the new may grow. We invoke the spirit of Queen of the Fae. She who knows love is the way. We invite her essence of love into our life. And we place her here in the south with the fire because she shows us that love is something that can both be fierce, ferocious, protective, but it also can be soft and nurturing and warming. Invoking the ability within us to learn the light of fire, the light of love. Bless us as we call your name. Anya, 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 Anya. Guardian of the Southwest, keeper of mystery, keeper of wisdom, of sacred hidden knowledge, she who has been mislabeled, she who has been demonized just as the witches, just as the deities, as Rhiannon. We are finding through this deity's message that we are all the same. The power exists within our eyes to eradicate the lower level parasitic entities from our body, heart, mind, spirit, auric field. We can command healing, command change. Bless us as we call your name. Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. Guardian of the West, keeper of water, we invoke the elements and the spirits of water to join us now. Keeper of the cauldron, she who alchemizes, she who transforms, she who endures to the end, she, a deity whom many misunderstand, showing us what it is to live your life as a spell, to never give up, to learn from our mistakes and to keep flowing, to never give up. She teaches us through her wisdom that the cauldron is to be tended by you. We don't employ people to stir our own cauldron or stoke our own fire. If we do this, the magic will always go away and we will not have our true intent in that magic. She's reminding you to stoke your own fire, to come back to it daily, to stir your own cauldron, and to have the enduring power within you to return again and again to the spells that even take you a year and a day. Bless us as we call your name. Caradwin, 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 Caradwin. guardian of the northwest, weaver of our sacred circle, queen of witches, she whose story and narrative have been woven in and out of religious doctrine under other names. Really, she is daughter of Diana, daughter of the moon, a power, a celestial power, embodied here to be queen of the oppressed, teaching the people what it is to rise up, to rebel, to rise in community. She teaches us the powers of the witch. Bless us as we call your name, Aradia, 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 Aradia. From beneath us, we call forth our loving Earth Mother, who unendingly nourishes, supports us, who is the mirror to our physical bodies. She continues to teach us no matter how much we mistreat her. She continues to feed and nourish us no matter how much we neglect her. And in this moment, we send our energy of love and respect to the Earth Mother as she is awakening and shifting levels of consciousness and vibrational frequency through all that is happening, not from the people on our planet, but she is shifting and changing as the other planets are influencing her, as solar flares are coming down and enlightening her. She is shifting and changing along with us, and as painful as it is for us, it is for her. And so we send our love and our respect to her in this moment and vow to walk gently upon her with our bare feet, connecting to her. We call forth and send our respect and honor to the indigenous who walk the lands before where each of us lived in a good way. To the first herbalists and healers and medicine people, the ancestors who walk the land before us. We call forth the ancestors of the bloodline of each individual who's taking part in casting this sacred circle today, that walk with them in a good way to be a part of their sovereign sacred circle. We call forth the Fae, the elementals, and the gnomes to be in union with humans as protectors of our loving Earth Mother. Call forth the Fae, the elementals, and the gnomes. Protect our Earth Mother. Guide us to live in harmony with the land. From above us, we call forth the star brothers and sisters, the home from whence our souls originated before they chose to incarnate into these human bodies. We call forth all of the star brothers and sisters from each planetary alignment to pour down upon the sovereign circles of which the seed of the soul that inhabits the body that they originated from pours down into their sovereign sacred circle, witnessing over the circle, pouring forth light, knowledge, and wisdom. And bringing your hands to heart center, Your left hand over your heart, your right hand over your left, as you call forth from the recesses of your unconscious mind and the deepest, darkest part of your heart. You call forth the child within you to rise up at whatever age she shows herself to you in this day, or he or they in this day. They arrive at the front center of our heart as the Phoenix child, as the invincible one who lived through all that they endured as a child. They are still with you, unharmed, holding the wisdom and the brilliance of your soul's purpose. Calling forth the I am presence of each individual in their individual sovereign circle, we call forth the I am presence. And as we do so, we lift this circle up, up, up to the 7th and 8th plane of consciousness, where divine knowing and miracles take place, while we remain fully rooted and grounded, anchored to this human body and the physical earth that we live upon. And as we do so, we command that this circle will be closed tonight when each individual lies their head down to sleep. Then and only then will the circle be open but never broken. For now, we seal this sacred circle in the name of the Divine Mother, Creatrix of all life, whatever you call Source. This circle is now sealed, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. It is done, it is done, it is done, and so it is. Blessed be. Taking in a deep breath and letting it out. Deep breath in. Open your mouth, blinking your eyes open, fluttering the light back in as you exhale. Coming back into the space, into this moment where we are all here, joined by technology, seeing how technology can actually be a good thing if we use it for the highest and best good of all. Hi, Betty Jo. I just want to say hi to all my beautiful Coven sisters that are on the live. Thank you all for joining me. If you want, as you hop back in, tap the heart button. Let me know anything that came up for you during that circle casting. Maybe you just feel like you're in a really good place now. Hopefully you feel more aligned, more centered. If you weren't here to hear me talking about Calm in the Chaos Circle that Stella Witch of the Moon and I will be leading virtually through Zoom on Saturday, go to the link in the bio, sign up. It's only $66. It is going to be an amazing 2 hours we will be spending together. So also want to let you know we have a few spaces left for Practical Magic. That is going to happen in October. If you want to join us, all over my page is videos, real videos of what we do at Practical Magic Retreat. And our Salem retreat is already sold out. So if you want to join me for Practical Magic, the link is in my bio. We still have payment plans available for you to start that will no longer be available. I believe the last time we can start a payment plan is the end of May. So payment plans won't be there very long because the retreat has to be paid for by the time the retreat comes. But if you want to spend 5 days immersing yourself in the most spiritual vortex land that you have ever been, come to Sedona. It's magical. The energy there is crazy. And we bring the magic of sisterhood, of healing, of ceremony, of ritual, of herbalism. And we do this all over Samhain. We are near a cemetery, so we always go and honor the spirits of our ancestors and the ancestors that actually lived in that area before us. We would love to have you join us. It is all based around the movie Practical Magic, so we always do midnight margaritas, but they are non-alcoholic. We use kava kava and add that to our margaritas. So if you have not yet signed up, but you've been thinking about it, the fire is now here. Aries season is here. Do not delay. We always sell out of this retreat, and you don't want to be watching Practical Magic in September thinking, I should have signed up for that retreat. So go sign up. Thank you guys for joining me today. I will be here tomorrow with Stella Witch of the Moon at 4 p.m. Arizona time. And we will be chatting about being the calm in the chaos, because we are going to have a calm in the chaos circle on Saturday, and we're so excited to join you all. All right, you guys, it is time for me to end this live. So thank you for joining me. I will see you all tomorrow. So much love to my moderators. I see Haley was moderating for me today, so thank you for being here and doing that. And for any other moderators that were here, for the Coven sisters that were here that maybe were kind of quiet, thank you, Jillian. Blessed be. And please go click the link in my bio. Eclectic Goddess, so much love for you for being here every week. And love you all. I will see you tomorrow, or I'll see you Saturday for our private circle. Have a blessed Sunday.